On today's podcast, we speak to John Logue. Now, John is the founder of Chance Clean Cider, and he's worked at the likes of LOGUE and Brewdog. On the episode, we speak to John about many things, including his use of TikTok, reactive video marketing, and non-alc booze, and whether Guinness 0% is actually as expensive as they say. There's a little thing that, I don't know if you're aware of this, obviously we know you from a company that you used to work for. We all have you saved in our phone as that John, your first name, and that company as your last name.
And I almost changed it at the weekend, and I was like, no, I like it.
No, I like legacy names.
Yeah, so regardless of what you do in the future, you're always going to be known by that. Yeah. So maybe you should actually do an actual intro so people know who you actually are.
So if you're going to be saving me in your contacts,
in your Rolodex,
yeah, start writing down this now.
Yeah.
My name's John, and I am the founder of a non-alc. Sounds like the beginning of my TikToks.
We'll get onto that.
We'll get onto that, yeah.
So I'm John. I'm the founder of this non-alc cider called Chance, and the reason for that is because I've worked in the alcohol industry for approximately 20-ish years, from like Diageo to LOGUE to Brewdog to Atom Brands to, like you're saying, to then being a consultant for 3 years. And what I specialize in now is kind of consumer brands in non-alc occasions. So I worked at CrossIp, and that's where we first fell in love. But this was kind of a little bit of a, do you know what I mean? You just kind of, why am I doing this for other people? I've learned all of their mistakes. I've stole all of their good ideas. And as a cider consumer, I was just a bit annoyed. Like, all good innovation comes from a personal problem.
So you're a cider drinker generally?
No, I'm just a drinker generally. Like,
well,
I like
this is
all
what I
of
was
them.
going to ask.
Yeah.
I know you're a drinker.
Yeah,
normally.
not sober. No, very much a moderator.
So where does the non-alc come into that?
It came in. So non-alc occasions came more into my repertoire. Just as most people in their 40s and maybe late 30s of just going, okay, there's probably things I should do to improve my lifespan.
No, I'm not there yet, mate.
Yeah, well, you young pups. You're not even bothered about alcohol, it seems, from what I read this morning. But you're looking for these moments. Really, you're right in the hot. You're in the hot spot.
I wouldn't say dependent.
Not bothered yet. Not even come in yet. But yeah, non-alc occasions become more and more reference to me because I wanted to kind of have nice, tasty drinks in the evenings, or I wanted to kind of drink less of other tasty drinks, and beer just took over in terms of availability and quality. And obviously working at Brewdog, working on AF, and going, I like punk, now I can drink punk nearly as good. Then going to Lucky Saint and seeing all that beer consumption just going, wow, it's getting better and better. And then Guinness, I'm a Guinness drinker by trade.
Yeah.
And then Guinness 0.0 coming in when I wanted ciders, because I do love cider. And I love appley ciders. I love slightly drier ciders, even though I worked at LOGUE. I was just literally going, and there was only one place that sold a half decent one, which was in Sainsbury's. And I was just like, there's got to be more options. And then when you go to the pub, it's even worse. And then when you go to like summers or festivals, it just was slapping me in the face going, come on, there's got to be someone out there doing this. And all the way through my pitching and investment rounds, people are going, what's your biggest fear? And I was like, that there's someone doing this that I haven't heard about, because it's so blatantly an opportunity. And
because I found it interesting because you still drink.
Yeah.
Like now, don't you? It's not that like you've all of a sudden decided.
This is coffee though, right? Yeah. We're done with that. Yeah.
Yeah. An Irish one.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's what I'm saying is I don't know. I find it quite interesting that someone's gone down the non-alc route.
You must have met other founders of non-alc brands though, right? And do they tend to be teetotalers or?
I think it's one or the other. So Carl is the founder of CrossIp and arguably one of the best cocktail makers in the country. I mean, he was the head drinks developer for Dishoom.
Right.
Like, he was the drinks expert on Something for the Weekend. Like, it's not just like my mates, they're good at drinks.
Yeah.
At 4 a.m. in the kitchen. So you've got someone like that that's very much in that space. And then you have people that are brought to this area because of sobriety or because of choices. So if you look at most notably and recently Spider-Man, like, he's come in and he's like, I've decided, he's not he's not coming from a sobriety point of view as he has a addiction. He's just gone, I kind of enjoy my life without alcohol more than I did with. But then you're right, if you look at someone like Spencer Matthews, who's very prominent, and that's another thing we've been looking at, is that across the spectrum of brands, you have lots of I'm not saying I'm a celebrity, but you have founder-led or celebrity endorsement. And then when you get into alcohol, you've got quite a few, from like, dare I say, P. Diddy, or like through to like George Clooney or Ryan Reynolds. And then you get into non-booze or AF, and you've got people like Spencer, and you've got Luke, who doesn't drink, and different things. Luke from Lucky Saint. There isn't anyone in cider that's doing that, which kind of gives me a point. But then, like you said, chance wasn't invented to soothe or replace or help with a religious or a medical or a decision-making brief of I don't drink alcohol anymore. It was like, how can I have more opportunities to enjoy an alcoholic occasion? And by occasion, I mean going to football, watching the football, going to a gig. You know, for such a long time, it was like, oh, you're pregnant or you're driving or you're sober. But everyone likes to drink nice things. And if you've ever had that influence of why you're not drinking, so you're driving, how many pints of Coke have you had before you're like, well, I'm getting out of it?
Me and you have talked about this before, haven't we? If there's someone out at the pub who isn't drinking, like, you can't go drink for drink if you're just drinking, like you said, a pint of Coke. How many, like, that's a loss of sugar.
Yeah, definitely. I think the last time we met up, the way that you put it was really interesting, that rather than go out and only be drinking this, I think you said, what if you, instead of having 5 pints, you have like 3 pints of cider or beer, but then you replace 2 of those pints with an alcohol-free, and it just means that you're not as pissed.
Elongating the occasion.
Elongating the occasion. You're not as hungover. Well, you probably couldn't drive after 3, obviously, but you know what I mean? Like, I think that's a really interesting way of buying and drinking alcohol-free that I hadn't considered before, rather than just be, I'm on booze or I'm off booze, combining the two.
There's an emotional way of looking at it, and then there's a factual way. So the thing that you're alluding to, which I haven't bastardized, but I've like run with. So there's a big consumer insight about a thing called zebraing, and that is going, I'm going to drink alternative all the way through. So I'm going to go pint, drink, cocktail, whatever it is. Right. The other one is bookending. So you might start the night with a drink, and you might end the night with a drink, and in between you do that thing. So they're the kind of, marketers always love a term for this kind of thing. Sure. But then there's the emotional one. There's a guy called Window Kid. He's like quite a cool rapper, and he has had to go sober. Okay. And he made this off the cuff comment on a podcast. But I was like, that's so clever. And he was like, if me and you go for a pint and I'm drinking and you're not drinking, we have the same pint. Neither of us after that pint are like, whoa, I'm in a different space to you. And that probably is up to maybe 2 or 3 pints. That when the fun or non-fun or the silliness happens, it's normally further down the line. So if you can have those 2 or 3 pints, or have those 5 pints and mix in, but there's no real change apart from the fact that you won't be hungover, you've consumed less calories. And that's another thing that we don't even talk about in terms of the amount of calories, the sugar content, the gluten-free, vegan, celiac, all the other benefits, which are kind of obvious when it's made from apples, right? People go, oh my God, it's like, it's celiac. And I go, yeah, so are apples, mate, calm down. But we're not making this. And one of the reasons why we called it clean cider is because we're not making a non-alc cider. We're making a drink that tastes great, that you can have in any of occasions, but with the handbrake off.
Do you sometimes get a bit of kickback from that, from not you in particular, but alcohol-free, that from a cost point of view? Because obviously you're elongating your enjoyment of the night or whatever, but rather than paying for 1 pint, you're paying for 4 drinks then. And also like the price point of like I don't know how much
they're the same price.
They're the same price, right? And I read this recently that there's like a bit of a kickback of people, like we've talked about this before, of like, I hear it a lot, people saying like, well, it's alcohol free, how can it pay like cost the same as a pint? Which,
well, firstly, get rid of those people out of your life. Obviously it is.
I know that. I know the reason for that. But
if they want to buy some.
Do you get
well, but you got to see it from a consumer's point of view, right? So you mentioned Guinness 0%. I'm a big fan of it. It tastes 99% like the real thing. Yeah. And I've done exactly what you just said. So I went on a night out and I drove. So I only had 2 actual pints and 2 0%ers.
Yeah.
But if you go in the shop, they're way more expensive. The 0% Guinness, you just buy them in a 4-pack.
Right.
They're way more expensive than buying actual
you're going to the wrong shop. They should be the same price. I don't think
Tesco.
Well, Mr. Tesco, sort of pricing they're normally the same price. And in terms of the people that are benefiting from this, so from the let's start at the one who should make the most out of it, which is pubs and shops. So they're selling something to you at the same price, but it's costing less to them. Then that is totally true. In terms of the pubs, happy days. The pubs need as much help as they need possible. And from a consumer point of view, they're having the same experience. It's in the same glass. They're not sat in like a shit corner with no heating on. So I think that's very fair that they do that. In terms of the production, so although we don't pay tax on that, it's harder for us to make that, and it costs as much.
Yeah.
So
I figured that was
thinking about like painting a wall, you're painting a wall and then you've got to take half or most of the paint off again. You have to produce the alcohol and then you have to remove it. So from our point of view, people go, it's apple juice. And I go, well, this cider, it's just not got as much alcohol in it.
Sure.
We've already produced the cider at 8%. And then instead of putting this amount of water in to get it down to 4 or 5%, we put a bit more in. But then because we've lost a lot of the flavour, and by flavour I mean the impact of alcohol, which has lots of sensory and physiological and just things that it does to your body, you then have to replace that, and we put in a very high tannin bittersweet juice back in.
Right.
So again, you're going, okay, well, I've
Which
filled
costs money. It's another ingredient.
I've
that
filled my car with
alcohol-
petrol. I've took some petrol out. I've got to put some more back in. Like all those cost bits there. What craft breweries do of rotovapping or using heat induction, or what a very famous non-alc beer does in terms of taking a great beer, a full strength beer, dealkalizing it, and then putting that beer back in to retain, and then not doing something else. It's a super difficult process, and deserves the respect of the pricing and the quality.
I used to rubbish it when it first started becoming a thing. When it was it Beck's Blue?
Beck's Blue.
I was like, who's ever buying that? Who's that for?
Did you ever buy the 3? Right.
Beck's is crap anyway, right?
I think. Can't say that out
Can we
loud.
not agree? Can we not agree on that?
It's good German beer, but it's mass produced.
Yeah. How's it going generally with the business?
It's so good, so exciting. The big bad wolf of someone doing this has not turned up yet. If you're watching, stay out.
You just need to get there first, man.
Well,
even if they do come.
Yeah, and a lot of the things that are going for us are being British produced, British apples, British farmers, created and developed by a really great cidery with Aston Manor. All tick boxes. Being in a pack format, which I think's smart in terms of how everyone else drinks non-alcs. So again, in that round we were talking about before, you also don't want to be the guy who goes, pint, cordial, and you kind of mess up the value chain of that. So the fact that it's in bottles and will be in draft means that it kind of fits all those pieces.
What's the reaction been like?
Well, you've seen the video that we filmed at the Christmas market, right?
Yeah.
And that
we didn't pay any of them. We didn't pay any of those people to say that. Everybody was loving it.
And I think the only person we didn't include was just because they were...
Well, they didn't say anything.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't that they went, this is shit.
No, I think they went... Yeah. And I'm like, that doesn't work on video.
Yeah, exactly.
And we did like 11.
Oh, yeah, everybody was loving it.
It doesn't matter if you don't like it. We'll just delete this if you do.
Yeah, it was good. Because normally we say, like, when we do Vox Pop stuff, we'll film like 15 and we'll probably only use like 4. Let's pretty much use all of them bar one.
That's like a rule of thumb, isn't it? You got to film at least 3 times as many you're going to use.
Yeah. But we could have used all of them, and we did pretty much use all of them.
Yeah.
And arguably, it's got to be better because it's so much easier for you to whack that straight away. If that wasn't as good as it is, people go, it just tastes like apple juice, or it doesn't taste like cider, or it's a bit, you can taste the fake sugar in it or the aspartame or whatever, which again, we don't use any of that.
Yeah.
So we've had to be, I was saying to you before, you have to be even more defendable because you're already starting out at like a...
Yeah.
If I came out with like a central Manchester craft beer brand, most of the time you're already pretty defendable. But then you go, I've made a non-alc cider.
Yeah. You're already kind of on the back foot, aren't you?
People are kind of going, I hope it's shit.
Well, because there was a lot of people's reactions in that video. We'll talk about the use of video because you've used us quite a few times over 2 different companies.
Depends how
now.
this goes, maybe more. Yeah.
Maybe. I was surprised on people's surprised reactions on it not having alcohol in it. if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So when you was like, oh, it's a non-alc or low alc, whatever, and they were like gobsmacked, I was surprised about that.
Yeah, and I think there's an element of probably people haven't there's not a great frame of reference. Like people aren't drinking.
I was just going to say the same thing. It's like, have you ever drank a non-alc
No, but
cider? Like,
no, but I don't really drink cider.
But the quality's important.
But when I tasted this one, I was like, this does taste like cider.
yeah, you'd never know.
Yeah.
You?
Like rather than like, I know it tastes a bit like apple juice because it's apples, but it's still, to me, it reminded me of drinking cider.
I think non-alc beer nowadays, though, like you would like. I drank Lucky Saint a lot of times before I realised it was alcohol free. Like back in it's been a while because it's been around for a while, but like I drank like 3 bottles of it before I was like, oh, this is not alcohol.
And there's three main reasons for that. One, quality is the most important one. 2, positioning. Like it doesn't look like it's not screaming. We talk about like codes. So that blue, to the listener and watcher, you can't see the blue there, but that kind of powder blue, that's a marketing code for low alc.
Right.
So there's none of that on that brand. So you're not instantly going, oh, it looks like Beck's Blue. But then the other one is,
and it doesn't say AF.
well, this is specifically to Lucky Saints.
Oh, right. Okay.
But Lucky, and we obviously took a lot of the learnings to that. But with Lucky Saint, you're also going, well, it's not Lucky Saint 0. It is just Lucky Saint.
Yeah.
So when I was there, we talked about it's a style of beer, and it's funny sometimes the codes of how we describe things don't translate. So you don't. If I went, oh, do you want to go and eat some Italian food? You go, okay, cool. But you don't go, hey, should we go and eat some food which is mostly tomato based and predominantly would be served with pasta? Yeah. So
are you okay, John?
Yeah. So to define a drink by going, this is non-alc, that's just one element of it.
Sure.
So we wanted to, Lucky Saint did it really well. So again, you're approaching it without the kind of instant confusion. And going back to your point about like people's kind of responses, my sales team in London, Core, are a non-alc brand sales team, so they only sell non-alcs, and they've had it a few times with buyers who've gone, oh, I didn't know you did alcohol.
Really? Yeah,
that's the one. And again, I'm not trying to create an alcohol brand per se. I'm trying to make a really great tasting apple drink.
Yeah.
But you're going, good.
Yeah. That's like the goal.
Yeah. But you're right, to go back to like the codes on this, like it says it there, but it's not going, rah, like this is not alcohol. Yeah. This is saying, wow, this is a really cool cider.
Yeah.
The fact that it's gluten-free and it's low in calories is probably just, there's a lot of beer brands that have come out and maybe ahead of the curve that came out with like 95 calories and such. And that didn't really hit quite right over here. But that was their selling point. And if you're ever bored, I can send you. You can look at the kind of consumer insights of what's important to people when they're looking for better for you. So better for you is a wider thing of is it sustainable, is it gluten-free, is it low in sugar, all that kind of stuff. And actually alcohol sits quite low on that. People are more bothered about sugar nowadays, but again, it depends whether Jamie Oliver's shouting about sugar. It's trends, right? So at the moment for us, we just want to make something that looked cool, tasted cool, and was a brand that you might want to have on your t-shirt.
Because we obviously did a video for you before Christmas when you were giving away cases. I got confused and thought it was 100 bottles, but it wasn't. It was 100 cases. So anyway, we produced that video for you.
Yeah.
And how long did it take for them to go?
7 hours.
That's incredible.
People like free stuff.
And didn't you say it was only like a couple of them were your mates though, right?
There was 4.
That you messaged, you were like
3 mates and 1 mate's wife. You know who you are. The idea is you want to create some cool content. You want to get people to buy another case afterwards, guilt them into it, but you also want to kind of test what's working in terms of engagement and things. And it was easily over 90 with new email addresses. The video just connected, and that again was me texting him, and I think I've said this out loud before. I was like, can you come down with your phone and video me just some pictures at the thing? And then he turns up with all his cool stuff. And then that Manchester video was just so successful. But again, at this stage, you've got that connection with the founder. And I'm not trying to create a brand where it's like, Chance Cider brought to you by John. Like, I'm just using the
what you've got. What you've got available to you. And I think because you're that size as well, you can be mega flexible. And you can just come to us, and like we've worked together before, like we know how you work, how you like to work, and you can just throw ideas at us, and we can move very quickly on stuff. And I think that's the good thing about it's exciting being a brand this size, right? And because you can just do whatever and do it quite quickly. You're not going to get sign off by loads of people, and you can kind of try stuff. And so far, everything has worked, but you can try stuff and fail.
It's funny, like, so my day job, I guess, is as a consultant for other founders, and you're obviously brought in because of your expertise, but you also have to get them to do stuff. And I wrote like all the rationale of why I was going to do this, and I'd written like 3 or 4 pages going, and I think if we do this, we'll do that. And I literally got to the 5th page, was like, I'm fucking making a decision. Like, why am I trying to tell myself this? You're doing the right thing if you're creating content from you and an extension of your brand, which is another conversation.
But you've really embraced TikTok, right? Like, really embraced it. Like,
I think
The first thing you said, well, it wasn't the first thing you said, but one of the things you said before we started recording, I haven't done any TikToks today.
there's an element of me loving being creative in that space, in terms of like, it's fun doing that. And then I did a TikTok a couple of weeks ago, and it was like a piece of therapy. Like at the end of it, I was like, oh, I'm going to do this.
Oh, okay, right.
But in my head, it was another kind of like chance. So Chance is 2 things. Chance is the brand. So the reason why we called it Chance is screensaver.
Carry on.
I thought there was going to be a video.
No,
Actually,
and here it is.
Yeah. I just thought that. Chance was, I wanted it to be a word that was a barkle. I want a pint of chance, or I'll take a chance. It didn't really come to mind. I know the ABBA thing, but let's move on. It's quite an onomatopoeic word. Like chance is nice to say. And also there was this thing of like, as a marketeer, you want a brand which instantly goes, all right, there's loads of things you can do here. So is it gaming? Is it taking chances? All that kind of stuff was in there. The other part of Chance was this founder story of going, how many of your mates in the pub go, well, I have this idea, and none of them take the chance. And also I took like a commercial and a career chance of going, I'm going to like jump out for 6 months and do this. So that whole thing moved into me going with TikTok, instead of going, I'm going to promote, and you can't promote non-alc brands on TikTok.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, well, what about if I am warts and all telling the story of what it's like to be a founder every day, from shit, I've got my first order sat outside Chester Football Club, to I'm really emotional this morning because I got an investor email which spun my head out. And documenting that, I think in my head is a cool way of creating another element of that brand. And again, like people aren't going to buy Chance down the road because of that, but it kind of helps with the industry piece of people like wanting to be interested in. If I was the marketing brand manager at Heineken of this, you're not inviting me down because it's not as interesting as someone who's come up with it all the way through. But also it's that piece of TikTok gives you this space to kind of like diarize it.
I'm not saying that you're going to want to be the face of the brand for the rest of eternity, but at the minute you are. It's kind of, we all know that know that you're the founder, right? Rather than
it's almost like you've got 2 brands going on. You've got Chance, but you've got John as well. Like you're developing whether you are aware of it or not, you're developing like a personal brand at the same time, right? But they're so intertwined with one another. So
one of my investors has this wonderful ninja agency in London called Monk. So I get to like they do all the design stuff, and this is all like, they wrote me this today.
Right.
Yeah. That they're controlling all no, they're not really. But we had a meeting last week and like a catch up, and it was that conversation about the 2 brands. And at the moment I am in both, but actually I will segment further away.
Sure. And
my brand will be more the engagement and category and trade conversation of, I don't know, I always say it, like Mr. Weatherspoons. He's going to go, oh, I've heard of him, and he talks the talk, and I trust in his brand. So it definitely has to migrate over to that point. But right now, it's cheaper for me than to employ someone else.
Of course, yeah.
And you've got this element of people really kind of celebrating founders and kind of engaging with them. And then we talked as well, I think before I said, like, there's no founders insider. So there's quite a big point difference. But a lot of the conversations or the decisions that I make are very much organic from me at the moment, because it's quite tiring to like have 2 different, to get my head into Chance and try and talk. So the way that we talk on our Instagram or our LinkedIn or on our website, the girl I work with, Jen, who's the copywriter, she doesn't write as a ghostwriter for someone different. She just writes in my tone of voice.
Okay.
Because it's easier for this to be an extension of me. And that then goes through to like the people I work with. Like if you weren't people that I'd go for a pint with afterwards, then I'm kind of like, well, I want to be having fun. I want to be working with people in the same place. If I look at festivals or collaborations, so say if like a yoga retreat came to me, if I didn't want to go to that yoga retreat, I'm probably going to make a decision that that's not the partner I want to work with. So this brand being an extension of me visibly is quite useful and economical at the moment. And obviously I fucking love it. But then you also have this, it's very easy to make decisions when you're just an expression of what your brand is. And going back right to the beginning, like I created this because I wanted to make a drink that I drink. Would I have made it slightly drier? Probably, because I have a slightly drier palate, but I also knew I wanted lots of people to drink it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So there are certain moments where you have to just make a little bit of a more macro decision. But I was always of the thinking, there's got to be 100,000 people like me in the country that might want to drink something like this.
Yeah, sure.
So let's just stick it to that.
Yeah.
What's the importance to you of using video as part of your marketing compared to literally anything else?
I think it's you can't have it. So on a website without videos on, it's pointless. To have not moving, engaging imagery on your social medias is pointless. To not have it in some kind of purchase decision moment, like whether you're scrolling through on your videos of your Amazon purchase, or whether more and more we're seeing retail entertainment in bars and in Tesco's, like moving image and video is so important. And I think, like, it's funny, as much as I'm a marketer, we hardly ever talk about the brand with Chance, the wider thing, being refreshingly present, being a clean cider. Like the whole narrative of being refreshingly present is about almost putting away your phone and being in the moment. And conveying that through video is absolutely where we're going to go. We want people to see our brand and almost like associate a moment in that. And as we get to these stages, like there's a load of reasons why we have a triangle, but one of the triangle things in my head is the certain triangle at a festival at Glastonbury. And like I want people to feel like they're at festivals and capture those moments. So all of that will be integrally done and intrinsically done with video, and
because it's
key.
Really refreshing from our point of view to work with someone who gets it, like straight off the bat, like understands the importance of it, and then key how to use it properly.
Yeah,
because we get quite a lot of people, don't they, who come to us and want video but not really know how to execute it, what they want. The idea might be not great, whereas that hasn't really happened with you yet.
the day's young.
Yeah,
it just makes our life a bit easier, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like it's nice when people knock on our door and want to do video, but yeah, like you say, not everybody kind of gets the best way to kind of utilize it and use their money wisely. I think sometimes
because I think like the days of like trying to persuade people to use video is gone now. I think everyone kind of gets in whatever form it takes that it's important, but I still find anyway that a lot of people don't know how to utilize it properly.
But I think that's not always their fault. Like we were talking about being a band.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Making videos is probably about as close as you get to being in a band, right? You're almost like slightly more of like the whole stories of like the band goes in, then the engineer and the producer create the album. Like you need to have a good band coming in, but you also need to have a good producer.
Yeah,
and
sure.
There's definitely like an alchemy and a vibe of us working together, which would be the reason why I choose you many times. So I guess what I'm saying is like it's not just the fact
Rick Rubin. We're Rick Rubin.
You totally,
yeah, cool, got you.
We're currently in Malibu recording this.
Yeah.
But I guess from the point of view of like, it's not always going to be the right client and production partnership. But when it works, like, don't change it. Like, it'll be fun. Until our third album, we go weird.
Yeah, sure. Well, we often say sometimes when clients don't get it, that's not their fault. They don't get it.
Yeah.
That's on us to like, without sounding too bougie, like to like educate them and to make them or to get them to understand. But it's just, I think what Cal's getting at is it's quite nice to work with somebody who gets it. It makes our job a lot easier.
Yeah.
But also it's difficult because one of the reasons that I wanted to found something. Did I find it? Found it? Be a founder.
You founded it.
Yeah, I founded it.
There's definitely alcohol in this.
Woo! It's that piece that you want to come in with ideas and you want to trust in the process and work with people to be collaborative. Whereas if you've got like an agency or like a brand department of a big company, or even worse, if you're like or better. But say you're like a company, you're a brand in America that's come over here and they're part of this. They don't have a lot of creative control. So you're kind of square pegging it. It's nice as well that we can come in and just go, right, well, apart from talking about cider and making sure that you've got a product shot in this, like we can do what we want.
Yeah.
So working with founders hopefully is a little bit more easy.
Oh, it's nice.
Because you haven't got the committee of
definitely.
the brand manager loves this, but then he's got to go back and find money.
Fewer numbers, like fewer stakeholders is massively helps. And also working directly with a founder who's just massively passionate about the brand and totally understands every detail of their brand. There's no question about it. Is a godsend, really. Yeah. I mean, we did have that with CrossIp to an extent. I think you understood the brand very well.
Yeah.
But to an extent, we were like the trouble that we would run into, not bad-mouthing CrossIp at all, they're fantastic, but Carl was a busy guy, right? And to try and get sign-off or get input from him, he's pulled in 1,000,001 different ways, despite him being the face of the brand.
And it's tricky, like in different eras of a brand, you'll have that. Where,
sure.
You know, like you might have a founder who has production requirements, or just generally as they get bigger. Like I'm sure getting hold of James What Now is harder than it was back in the day, or Luke Bowes. Or, like right now we can, like I'm everywhere on this.
Yeah.
But yeah, like those relationships as well. Like I've been in brand teams where, you know, they break a relationship with an external supportive agency just because like procurement have asked you to go and check on the prices. It's like, it doesn't work like that. Like you might have to pay a bit more this year, but it's worth it because you have that legacy. In video, in this art, because it's art, are the same as a band. And I'm sure, like, we've all heard the third.
I love being described as being in a band.
No, but it's true, right? Like, you know, we go, the first band, like, they recorded in the day and it was all like live takes and stuff. And there was a bit scratchy, but it worked. And then you hear, like, you know, Noel Gallagher talks about writing the third album on a beach in Barbados. He was like, I can't really get, like, what am I writing about now? Yeah. And then he goes in and, wasn't it Be Here Now? They tracked the drums for 3 days.
Right.
It's like, calm down, lads. Like, can you hear all the things?
Yeah.
So, like, having that kind of, like, I don't mind using the word, like, the vibe of it being caught on video will transcend to your consumer.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's a lot of, I like to watch adverts now where you kind of, like, take yourself out and you can see this real kind of like connectivity in advertising apart from one category, which is perfume. It's just like still mad.
And car adverts as well.
Yeah. But then you do kind of go like, people do want to watch something and go, I kind of like that person, or I want to be in that room, or I do fancy doing that. And going back to what we said about like TikTok and Reels, that's why they connect so much, because people actually believe it's true. Not, Kim Kardashian's probably going to switch to the other energy drink next week because they paid more.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, man.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Good
man.
fun.